Hitchhiker Slaughterhouse guide. Now, this video is not going to go so much into the actual build that you're going to be using with Hitchhiker, but it's more so going to go into how you should play on this map. So if you're on this map and you're a Hitchhiker main and you're not really sure where you should go, what you should be doing, and more importantly, where you should be placing your traps, I am going to explain to you exactly where you should go, exactly what you should be doing, and exactly where you should place your traps, in addition to why I am placing my traps there and why I am not placing them in certain other areas. So, let's jump into it so I can show you what we're talking about here. First of all, when you first spawn in, so Hitchhiker always spawns here, right? Now, occasionally a blood bag, and I'd say most of the time, a blood bag is going to spawn right here. Now, if you are someone who is running Violent, which it basically allows you to do more damage once you have a full vial, I would say go ahead and collect this. Take a half second to collect this. And then while you're running through, I'll point out some other potential blood vial spawns, or blood bag spawns, excuse me, and go ahead and pick those up if you bring Violent. If you don't, I don't think it's worth it to pick it up, because for the most part, this map, being more victim-sided as it is, affords the victims an opportunity to get out of the basement pretty quickly. So you have a long distance to cover, and you need to get your traps down quickly, and every single second counts. And you can't really be wasting time picking up blood unless you are then getting that time back later in the match, because you are now becoming more lethal because you've got a full blood vial and are dealing more damage with Violent, and you are now killing victims quicker. So if you didn't bring Violent, don't worry about the blood bags when you first spawn in. If you did, go ahead and pick them up as you go. So, you're going to come through here. Obviously, as you're going through, make sure that you lock every single door behind you. I'm probably going to go underneath the crawl space. You don't have to do that. That door to his left doesn't actually lock. I think you can actually potentially latch that door and then crawl underneath it. I don't fully remember off the top of my head if it was the right, but don't worry about it. The point is, regardless, you don't really have time to be farting around. Just get through that door and move on. There's a blood bag you could see over there to the left. Once again, you can pick that up if you're bringing Violent. Keep moving forward, and then you always want to go out through this left door here. You always want to go out here first. Shut it, lock it. As you can see there, right next to that door, I turned around too quick, was another blood bag. You can pick that up if you need it. And then here's where we're going to place our first trap. First trap's going to go down right here. Now, the reason that we're putting a trap here is because it does a great job of denying that door that leads to the generator. And it's also a great trap, doubly so, if the fuse box happens to spawn over up in this corner. You can then deny the fuse box as well. And the reason this is such an excellent trap is because people have a tendency to come up that ladder to the side there. And they're always going to try to go through this crack first. And there's a good chance they're going to step into this trap because they're not going to be able to see it, and they're going to be animation locked as they come through this crawl space, or whatever it's called. I don't remember what they actually call it. Crawl spaces are the ones where you actually crawl. I don't remember what they call those. And then you're going to come through here. And also, by the way, with these, communicate with your team and make sure that your cook, or if you have a cook, or your Johnny comes and kicks these closed. If they don't, make sure that your Leatherface comes and destroys these. Ideally, you will get these destroyed. This one needs to be destroyed. This crawl space over here needs to be destroyed. And then I'll show you that there's a crawl space back there that needs to be destroyed. And I love this trap, because if people are coming up through this basement exit right here, they're not going to be able to see this trap here. And they're going to have a tendency to come up here and try to go through here so that they can look for the fuse box that'll potentially spawn back here, or a water valve. Especially if water valve spawns right at the bottom of those basement stairs. Because then they also have the crawl space right here that they can get through. So that if they are seen by a family member, they have basically a free escape and a well on the other side. So if you place this here, they're not going to be able to see it, and they're very likely going to run into it. So this is what I'm talking about as far as the crawl space goes. You got to get rid of that as quickly as possible, because this is the only thing that allows you to get past the 2 traps that I'm about to lay down. And the reason for this is because if you end up in a situation where the victims manage to get water valve and you're not able to get down there and shut it off, and it becomes a race towards the exit. I have had several games where these 2 traps that the one I just placed and the one I'm about to show you have shut down a character from escaping. But if this is here, I've had it happen once where this was still there and the Leatherface did not destroy it and it was just wide open, and the victim just bypassed my 2 traps, slipped under this, and escaped through the water valve. So make sure you get rid of that if you can. So then you're going to place a trap down right here. And this placement is very important because I used to place it a little further this way, kind of towards this like metal fence. What I found out was, and the reason that I like to do that is because the further out it is, the less likely it is it's going to get spotted. So if somebody runs this way in the middle of the chase, they may not like see this until they kind of turn the corner, and then it's too late and they've already stepped in it. When it's further back like this, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to spot it and they're just not going to run this way and step in it. But the reason you have to do this is because if you place it too far out this way, I've seen it happen, they can actually slip through here without setting off the trap. If you put it right here, it's just close enough to where they should not be able to slip through here. If they try to come through here, they're just barely going to set off the trap and get sucked into it, basically. But if you place it too far forward, it creates just a small enough gap that an observant victim can actually slip right past it. I've had it happen. So you want to place it a little bit further back, right about where I'm placing it here, to ensure that they get trapped. Now, the reason that we're doing this, the reason these are so good, is because not only do they cut off different lanes for victims to run through, these 2 are great at denying water valve. And water valve is the biggest problem as a family member on this map. You have to deny it. Ideally, you will stop them from ever getting the water valve turned on, but if you get to a point where they do get it turned on, these traps do an excellent job of denying them the escape. And then obviously, just like any other family member, if nobody, has come up yet, if you don't know if anyone's gotten any exits yet, you can go ahead and collect some blood and feed Grandpa. And this is hugely important. And I want to mention this because I just did it. Use your family sense as much as possible. This isn't specific to Slaughterhouse, obviously, but it's true of all family members. Use this because it's good on Hitchhiker because he can see whether or not his traps have been deactivated, which gives him a ton of helpful information. And that's also true on someone like Cook. It's hugely important on Cook to see if his padlocks have disappeared. But not only that, it also, when victims, if you've ever played Victim, have those annoying voice lines where they're very loudly like, "Oh my God, they're right here." And you're like, geez, they're going to hear me. Family sense allows them to hear those voice lines. So if there is a victim that is close to you and they're talking, you can hear them if you activate family sense. And not only that, you can also just hear better in general. You can hear like the car battery, you can hear the generator, you can hear like doors opening. You hear all sorts of stuff way better. And it's just great for tracking. So you should be using family sense very, very frequently in this game. And then obviously, like I said, once you have done all that and set up all your traps, you can go ahead and collect blood if there's nobody really to chase. But then you want to spend most of your time as Hitchhiker patrolling objectives, obviously. So what I would typically do is probably, depending on spawn, I would come over here and kind of patrol this side door. Come back here. I will check the water valve spawns to see if the water valve is missing. So then I can communicate that to people and be like, oh, by the way, the water valve's gone. They're going for water valve exit right now. So I know to go down to the basement and check that. And potentially get down there and maybe shut it off. Either cut them off before they even get it turned on, or shut it off the second they get it turned on. So I like to patrol kind of that door and then go back and forth between that and car battery, checking the valves. And then depending on where the fuse box spawns, passing by that and checking that as well. And fuse box, for the most part, should be your #1 priority on this map. Your top 2 priorities more than anything else are going to be fuse box and water valve, because water valve is really tough to defend, since this is the only map where water valve will actually spawn in the basement. And then obviously fuse box is tough to defend, because not only is it an instant activation that you cannot respond to, you can't shut it off the way you can water valve. Victims also have a tendency to open up that exit that's kind of to my right here in this video. And I think it's the loading bay is the name of that room. They will come up through that exit. That exit is right in front of the basement exit. So then when that switch gets flipped, they just head right back for that door. And there's no real way to stop them from getting out through that exit. So you want to make sure that you're guarding fuse box and water valve as much as you can. And if you, sometimes you'll get a really good spawn on this map, very rarely, where you will have the water valve actually spawn right at the bottom of these stairs here, and then the fuse box will spawn right over here, and you can kind of go up and down and check both. I've done that before with like Leatherface, and that's really nice because it's pretty easy to deny those two if you get that spawn. If you get the fuse box spawn that's over here, that's the roughest one, because they're probably going to rush that, and that's why you put your trap over there, because they're probably going to rush that and then try to get right back down either that ladder exit or the exit in loading bay and get straight out through that way. As far as like other places to place traps, I personally don't like trapping the ladder, because a lot of times, yes, you can deny it, but a lot of times it gives victims an option there where they could crawl up the ladder, and then if they see the trap in time, which a lot of times you can, they can then just instantly drop down the ladder. They're not locked into that animation. They can just hit E and drop down if they see a trap's up there. Or alternatively, they can just immediately step in it, get out of it, and then in that room they have like 3 different avenues for escape. And so I just, in general, I don't like trapping ladders. I like putting it in places where it's practically guaranteed someone's going to step in it in the middle of a chase. Because if somebody steps into one of your traps in the middle of a chase, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill. Whereas if somebody steps in your trap in a situation where you're just putting it there for information reasons, like you're doing it to deny that ladder, you're not going to get there in time to kill them. So that's why I don't typically like trapping the ladder. So there you go. Here's how you play Hitchhiker on Slaughterhouse. I hope this helps you out. Let me know if it does. Let me know if you've got any good trap spots that maybe I didn't think of on this map. And let me know if you get any traps. If you get any snares with Hitchhiker using these trap spots. Obviously, if these trap spots became popular, they wouldn't work as well. But with these trap spots that I use, I'd say I get probably 3 to 4 snares at least every single game on this map. And it works really well for me. So give it a try. Let me know what you think. Enjoy the video. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you in the next one.